Hello, everyone. Oh, it's so good to see everyone. Yes, it's that time again, and you are in the right place because you have tuned in to, guess what? Congresswoman Gwen Moore, and not for sisters only. 2021 is the year, and it's time for the strategies for achieving equity, both politically, economically, and socially. So welcome. It's so great to see everyone. We love this annual meeting. And before we bring in the woman of the hour, we need to give a special shout out for the 50th anniversary. Yes, I said 50 anniversary of Congressional Black Caucus and the annual legislative conference. So this is a really exciting year for us. We're happy that you, our audience, as always, is here. And you are in for a treat. We have 3 individuals, I guess I should say 4, including myself, 2 wonderful brainstormers, and of course, our Congresswoman. So for those of you who haven't been with us before, I don't know who that is, but let me tell you a little bit about our Congresswoman. I always like to say my Congresswoman, which you know, but this year I have 2 wonderful experts and brainstormers, and they also can say that it's their Congresswoman too. So I'll say our Congresswoman is here. I want to take just a moment and tell you a little bit about her, and I'll preface it with this. She hates introductions. She likes you to get right to the point, but guess what? I'm disobeying her this time because some of you are new. You need to know what a powerful woman we have in Congress who not only operates nationally, but she operates globally for those of the African diaspora. Who is that? She is Congresswoman Gwen Moore, and she was elected to represent Wisconsin's 4th congressional district in 2004. Wow, 17 years. This made her the first African-American elected to Congress from the state of Wisconsin. Thank you, God. She is a member of the esteemed, I need you to hear this, the esteemed House Ways and Means Committee. That's no joke, y'all, if you don't know. It's the oldest committee in the United States Congress, and it has jurisdiction over the Social Security system. Thank you, Congresswoman. Medicare. Thank you, Congresswoman. The foster care system, TANF, for those of you know that's temporary assistance for needy families, unemployment insurance, and all kinds of taxations, tariffs, and incomes. What I also love about this woman is she is a member of the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Our Congresswoman is a very strong advocate for measures that focus on improving the economic and employment conditions in low-income communities. Trust me, she's no joke. She's been arrested for her beliefs. And to me, that's someone who truly, truly, truly puts others first. She's made it her mission to give voice to those that are voiceless, both domestically and abroad. We're really, really proud of her. Just know that you're going to hear her talk about a number of initiatives. She is my champion when it comes to educational equity. We're going to talk about that. But I need you to know that before we let her go to DC, she also served in the Wisconsin State Senate from 1993 to 2004. It is my pleasure, my honor to introduce to you a tireless advocate for women's rights and for civil rights. She leads the fight against racial profiling, yes. Domestic abuse, yes. And what we are going to talk about, voting rights violations. She is the beautiful, fantastic, empowering woman that we love. And I always say, when are you going to write that book, From Welfare to the White House? She is our Congresswoman, Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Hello, Congresswoman.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say after that introduction. Well, thank you, Ambassador Dr. Joan Prince. And I'm so excited about this particular workshop. And I'm so excited to be a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, a 50th year anniversary of this particular celebration. We've always been very, very proud that we've been able to present substantive issues to the public. And this is not for sisters only. It's something that we've been able to put on ever since I've been a member of Congress to really stand up and illustrate the power of especially Black women in the United States. I'm so proud today that both of those women are from my own constituency, my own community. We're going to be able to talk about one of the things that's really important to me. I have just been appointed to a select committee by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, as a select committee on economic disparity and opportunity and growth. And I'm serving on that committee with the likes of people like AOC, Pramila Jayapal, who's the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, but also people like Marcy Kaptur, who's the Dean of Women in the House, with freshmen, with Jim Hines, who worked on Wall Street at one point. And we're going to try to look at the kinds of economic dislocation that really creates a crisis in our economy. And in particular, I've been tasked to look at sort of the kinds of laws and legal problems that have lent themselves to the kinds of economic disparities that we see in housing, opportunities for people, especially African Americans, ownership of property, ability to go to school, to be able to live in integrated neighborhoods, to be able to have wages. I am so happy to be with these women, and I hope that they're going to be really fulsome in their stories, because when you think about Black people and Black women who, their background, the ability, the social mobility of African Americans in this country from, say, the lower two rungs of the economic quintile, and to be able to serve as CEOs and ownerships of companies, an extraordinary thing for Black people, but Black women, this is like a sociological miracle. And so I'm really happy to be here with them today. And I hope that they're going to share some things with us that will help us sort of grasp the kinds of challenges that we've overcome. I don't want to take too much time, Dr. Prince, but I just want to mention that the kind of inequality that African Americans have experienced is so devastating that we see sort of a 10-to-1 wealth gap between African Americans and other Americans. And so to be able to have this conversation today with our constituency locally and nationwide is really, I think, going to be informative. And I yield back to you.
Thank you. Absolutely excellent. And I love the great way that you've set us up to actually introduce these two wonderful, outstanding brainstormers and experts that we have with us today. Let me start, and I'm honored to say that I know both of them, just like the Congresswoman does, and have had the pleasure of engaging in work with both of them. These are no jokes. There are no slackers here. So you're in for a treat. Let me start with Thelma A. Sias. And let me tell you a little bit about Ms. Sias. I'll be formal just to start with, then after that, she's Thelma. But Thelma A. Sias, I think most of you know her, and if you don't, guess what? I'm getting ready to tell you about her. You need to know her. She is the founder and president of the Sias Group, which provides political and leadership consulting experience. She is a very successful and very sought after professional speaker. She's well known for her inspirational tone and, of course, her passion for people. Her speeches are extensions of her life. I love that. And not only her life, but her work experience. She's very relatable and very engaging. Prior to her retirement in 2017, they need to get rid of that word because we really don't retire. But prior to her retirement, she served as vice president for local affairs for We Energies. And she was responsible and very well known for building and enhancing long-term relationships, not just statewide, but nationally as well. For her public service, her professional excellence, and commitment to this community and to a nationwide community, she has received multiple awards and recognitions. Many of you are familiar with Savoy Magazine. Well, guess what? She was named to Savoy Magazine's 2016 top list of influential women in corporate America. She was raised on a farm in Mayersville, Mississippi, by two wonderful parents, the late Roosevelt and Pauline Sias. She has long supported local, state, and national Democratic candidates. She's worked on political campaigns, nada. And she was recently selected to serve as a delegate for the 2020 Democratic National Convention. She is known to many of us, and to those who didn't know her before, you know her now. Thelma A. Sias, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Joan Prince. It's an honor to join you, Congresswoman Moore, and Dr. Carter as well. It's an extraordinary moment for us to look from one side of the room to the other and see the power of what African-American women have done, can do, continue to do, and will always do as impacting the quality of life in our community. And every time we impact our community, we have the ability for others to learn how to do the same. It is going to be an extraordinary opportunity for us to share views and perspectives of how to keep stepping forward and forward and forward.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so excited. Now, let us turn to our other sister on the panel. My. How did I get so lucky this September to actually sit with three people, three women? Now, remember, it's not for sisters only, but I want you to see the profile of four women who are getting ready to take it on and bring it on. Our next person is someone who, I won't say how long I've known her, but let me just say this. She is Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter. She's president and CEO of V&J Foods Holding Companies Incorporated, which is listen up, it's a multi-brand, multi-state operation, and it is the largest, yes, I said largest, female-owned franchise organization in the country. Whew. She has a quick service restaurant empire and a real estate empire. You'll know the names. Auntie Anne's Soft Pretzels. You're making my cholesterol go up. I love them. Burger King, Coffee Beanery, Nino's Southern Sides, My Frozen Yogurt, Pizza Hut, and Captain D's Seafood. You know who I'm talking about now. She's one of the most preeminent business owners in the United States. We also love her because she's also a board member, okay, we'll try to be impartial, of the Green Bay Packers, and she is a minority owner of the Milwaukee Bucks basketball team. Yes, you heard what we said. In the spring of, 2017, AAA, when your car doesn't start, Automobile Association of America appointed her as the first African-American female chair. She has been in Black Enterprise magazine. They honored her in their 50th anniversary edition, and she was awarded the Legacy Award of the 50 most inspiring women in business. But I would suggest that what she is probably most proud of is that she is not only an outstanding life coach, she's a very generous humanitarian, and she won't tell you that. She stays grounded in local and international philanthropic projects. And I'm talking about things such as health and wellness in small African villages. This woman is just the bomb. I don't know what else to say, but I will say this. While she is a national exemplar, just like Ms. Sias, just like our Congresswoman, she is a touchable woman. And that, I think, is the best way to describe this outstanding woman. Hi, Dr. Carter, Dr. Daniels Carter. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much. It is my joy and my pleasure to be with you, Ambassador, and certainly to our Congresswoman, the greatest Congresswoman that I know, and to my friend, Dr. Thelma. I am just elated to share this time with you all. It is a blessing just to know that God has empowered and impacted so many wonderful women. And I'm just grateful to be here with you today. And I'm looking forward to the nuggets of wisdom that I will receive and that we will impart to others. And hopefully we'll be able to navigate all of us to our place of destiny.
I love that. Navigate us to our place of destiny. Okay, you see the ink pen? I always like to write little nuggets down when I do this. Navigate us to the place of destiny. I just love that. We're going to, for the next few minutes, stick with you, Dr. Daniels Carter, because we want to wade into a discussion around economic equity. And I will tell you, one of the things that we do in our Not the Sisters Only session that Congresswoman Moore insists that we do, we don't just have a friendly discussion. We bring statistics to the table, we bring data to the table, and then we leave with strategies. So let me start off this whole economic equity discussion, Dr. Carter, as well as Ms. Sias, and the Congresswoman will comment at the end with some really stark data. Do you know that white households, and this isn't Jones data, white households have stockpiled over 102 trillion, not billion, $1 trillion in wealth, while Black Americans, our household wealth has barely moved in 30 years, and it's estimated to be around 6 trillion versus 102 trillion. Let's talk about economic equity as it comes to home ownership. More than 70% of white families own a house compared to just 44% of Black families. You know that economic equity ties into stock ownership. More than 57% of white households own stock. Guess what? Just 30% of Black households have any kind of equities. When I went through all of this, I have to tell you, I got to the point of just being disgusted. When we talk about economic equity and all of those life things that stability in Black wealth can bring and the hope that it can deliver for our families, Dr. Carter, Dr. Daniels Carter, would you share with us your story? Because I think it's important. One of the things that we discussed pre-taping, and I think it's important for people to understand that none of us was born into wealth. None of us was born into nobility. We all started at the same place. But what you have done is given us hope as to economic equity and how we can stabilize that and how you have brought people forward. Tell us your story and share with us some of your strategies around trying to equalize this horrible dynamic around inequity in economics.
Well,
Dr. Carter?
Friends, I certainly would like to take the opportunity to share with those that are listening, for them to understand that you can have whatever you set out to accomplish, but you have to set your mind towards a goal. And there is an enormous level, I think we all know that, just the statistics you just quoted of inequity as it relates to economic empowerment within our community and within the embrace of our people. The question is, what do we do about it and how do we change it? And how do we move from where we are to where we need to be? I started in business, and as a young entrepreneur, I had to be very aggressive in terms of getting access to where I needed to be. And I was relentless in positioning myself for what I wanted to accomplish and achieve. Now, I didn't have all the money that I needed, and I don't think I'll ever have all the money that I need because my vision will always be greater than my pocketbook. But at the end of the day, I believe that if it is, and I'll say it like this, if it is something you can envision, and we need to instill the ability for our young people to see. And that's one thing I know that our Congresswoman really embraces, is the fact that she wants exposure for our youth, because when they can conceptualize it, then they have the opportunity to move forward in what potentially could be a life-changing experience. My life was changed because I did not allow the system to dictate my future. And we have to get to the point to where we define our own future and what success means for us. And if you're hungry enough, it will come. In the last 4 years, we've started over 900 women in business in Africa. And when I first started, I went there and I was going to do a program where I was going to start a couple women in business. And so I met with the senator's wife in Africa. And I said, well, we're going to start with a couple of women and we'll see how everything goes. And overnight, when they heard that I was in the country and that we were going to be meeting the next day, the meeting went from having 12 or 15 ladies in a round table until when I got there that afternoon, there were over 500 women standing at the gate of the senator's house because they wanted to be empowered. They wanted to capture something better than where they were. And so I looked around and I said to myself, oh my God, how do I deal with this massive crowd of women that have passion, they have energy, they were hungry for success. And I said, well, I need to think this thing through. So I went on the grounds and when I went on the grounds, I said to the ladies, I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have the wherewithal to start all of you off in business today, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to start a couple women off in business. And if they're successful, then they will start another woman in business. And then we will kind of just lag on to one another until we can continue to grow the platform. And before we knew it, those women, because of their passion, because of their energy, some of them were not even the most educated, but they had skill and they had ability. And all they needed was training and a little seed capital. And we were able to take that to the table, just like we've done here in the US, and sowing into the businesses here, allowing young entrepreneurs. Sometimes all they need is to understand that they can have it. So is there inequities? You better recognize and understand there have been inequities, and historically we've seen it over and over. Now we've got to do something about shifting and changing this culture.
I love that, shifting and changing this culture. And I'm going to bring the Congresswoman in. Congresswoman, give us your thoughts about that, and then I'm going to turn to Ms. Sias.
Thank you so much. I mean, I was ready to shout. And, you know, just thinking about that, Dr. Carter, you know, just when you empower a woman, this is a fact. You are empowering a whole family. And it sounds to me like you empowered a whole village. And I think when you talked about not allowing your circumstances to dictate where you're going, you're not just talking about these poor women in a village, you're talking about your own self. You know, this is sort of public information that I'm sharing about you, but I mean, you come from a family of like 7 brothers and sisters. I mean, your grandparents migrated from Birmingham, Alabama. I mean, I guess that's kind of the seat of segregation and discrimination against African Americans. Your family moved so-called up north. And, you know, the story about you, I'm so interested in. I mean, you lived across the street from the Black girl that integrated Custer High School after her family fought with the public school system in order to be able to get in that school. Your parents worked hard. I Googled where your father worked, and I mean, his drive to work across the Illinois border was 1 hour and 37 minutes each way. And he worked hard and paid very dearly for it by dying at a very young age, 50. And so I guess I was wondering if you could just share with us, you know, it's not just hard work and all your brothers and sisters went to college and not just education, but it's just some of the kinds of things that kept you going. What would you say 2, 3 takeaways, that advice you would give women that despite these data and statistics, the historic discrimination in housing and property ownership and upward mobility in jobs, and even when we succeed in businesses, the ability to stay middle class or upper class, I mean, the slide back into poverty or lower incomes is so precipitous. what are a couple of things that you can just share with us about what you think was different from you and just the millions of Black people who, despite working hard, didn't make it?
Well, I tell you this, at the end of the day, Congresswoman Moore, I really believe this sincerely. Everyone knows I'm a woman of faith, and I don't hide that. I'm very proud of who I am and who I am in God. And so my relationship to him is critically important to me. And I really believe that there is a place that he has for all of us, and it is well defined. And many times there will be obstacles in order to get to where you need to go. Has it always been easy for me to navigate in my assignments? Absolutely not. But understand, leadership and greatness and success is not birthed in you, it's birthed from you. And so you have to have the ability to take on the task that's before you. In many circles that I operate in, it is majority white male oriented. And so I have to not only gain the respect of those individuals, but I have to have the confidence within myself to know that I can achieve. So having that ability to have that stick-to-itiveness, if you will, to manage through the storm, because you're going to be confronted with things. I recently read the McKinsey study as it related to the disparity between even white women and African Americans during this pandemic period, and the separation and what it has caused us to do. And many times how we've fallen behind now, and we will continue to fall behind unless someone captures us. And that's why I'm so grateful for this session today, because this is a let me catch you, sister session or brother session before you fall too far behind. And I'm not going to let anyone or anybody stop me from where I know I need to be. And that's in part every Tuesday night now. I take a moment from 7 to 7:30 to encourage people the reality of recovery, because we're going to come out of everything that we're going through, but we've got to have the power to win.
Powerful.
You know what? I think I'm going to shout, so I might need a second so that I can go in the corner and shout for a moment, but I know we don't have time. Let me thank you, Dr. Carter. We appreciate, and the audience is doing one of these, jumping up and down all the way around. I am looking at this beautiful smile of Thelma A. Sias, but guess what? We're about to hear from her right now too, because we want to talk to you and hear from you around the whole issue, the whole entire issue of social inequities. The big discussion is, where are we and how much do we attribute to COVID? How much was there before COVID? How much will be there after COVID? Simply because people are finding ways not to understand where we were as a people before COVID even became a word. Let me help you start. Did you know, audience, just less than half of all Black adults are currently employed in the US? That's a felony. Did you know that Black households had, are you ready, $8,000 cash on hand on average, while white households have amassed $49,529 per household? Definitely not ready for any kind of crisis, right? Black women draw around 2/3 the average earnings of a white man. Where's my 1/3? Put another way, a Black woman has to work 226 additional days to earn the average salary of a white man. We're hospitalized at nearly twice the share of other populations. I can see Ms. Sias's hair starting to twitch. Talk to us, sister, and talk about your lens. I mean, you come from what, a family of 11? What you've been able to do and what you can share, strategies, your thoughts around the social inequities broadly. Ms. Sias.
Well, Dr. Prince and Congresswoman Moore and my very dear friend, Dr. Carter, let me first say to you, all of those things you say are facts. But I learned something about managing facts as I stood in the cotton fields of the land that my parents owned, chopping and picking cotton. I learned about the power of, as Dr. Carter said, believing in yourself. My mother and father worked hard and sent 11 kids off to college. They held on to a farm of land that is now incorporated as a family incorporation. So as Dr. Carter talked about, with all of the things that are facts looking at us, they're much better conditioned than they were for those that came before us. So the first thing we need to do is understand the power of who we are and that we are. Understand the courage it took of men and women before us who had so little to work with, but they made possible colleges for us to be able to attend. They worked upon those fields and made sure that we had the ability to be exposed in a world differently. And what I want to really make certain for people to understand, even when others say we cannot, if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't pack on our backs a big backpack that says, I am going to dream big, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to believe and invest in my own journey, even though you may not believe I deserve to have it, we won't survive this. We must anchor ourselves, as Dr. Carter said, in our faith, but we got to be ready to take it on every day. I spent 30 plus years in corporate Milwaukee. There were many days that the rule was very clear, different from me than it was for the other. But I wasn't going to give anyone, no one will ever take from me my dignity and my self-respect. On the day you decide you're coming to get it, you got to know a good butt whooping is in hand to do it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I say to every woman that's listening to this, those that will go out and tell others, we must look in the mirror every frat day. Like what we see, love who we see, respect who we see, and believe in who we see. We are the ones that will walk alongside of each other. We'll hold hands with brothers who want to go on a journey for success, and we're going to drag others into it. But we must believe. We must think big, work big. We must invest with each other. We need to have Black accountants, Black lawyers, Black doctors. We need to spend our money in Black-owned businesses. And we need to say to generations yet to come, this is not a plaything at all. If you don't hold on, if you don't believe that you should have it, you won't. And you must take care of all of your community. Take pride and respect. I don't care how small, I don't care how little, I don't care how tiny what you have. It's yours. My mother and father said, treat every person with the same dignity and respect you so desire, but let no one take from you what you've earned. And that's what's going to have to happen as we look over this pandemic period. How do we move forward? We were struggling. We were dealing with the issue of racism, sexism, economic disparity. But you and I know it was women across all cultural groups that made soup, made beans, they stood in line, they shared with others. We must get the lead out of our butts and get back to the task of surviving the journey. Will it be easy? No. Will it be for the faint heart? No. Will it mean that we should stop? Hell no. We're going to take it all.
Oh, Ambassador Dr. Joan Prince, I think that's why they made her birthday a national holiday. She's born Juneteenth Day. So I think this is, we see why here right now.
I was trying to reach, but I probably would have fallen off the chair. I was trying to reach my fan because I wanted, you got to get the church movement just right, because I wanted to yell, preach, preach. Hearing those things. And I want to really thank Dr. Daniels Carter and Thelma Sias, Miss Sias, for that, because the strategies in there are basic They're simple, and all we have to do is just do it. And we have to do it. It's trying to push people to do it. But I'm going to toss this now to our Congresswoman and say to you, before I take us into our final question, time flies, doesn't it? I'm going to say to you, Congresswoman, and ask you to talk about something that we haven't had an opportunity to engage in. We've talked about economic inequality. We have talked about all types of social inequality and ways in which we can just do small things ourselves, like investing in ourselves and investing in other Black businesses. I ask you, Congresswoman, about educational equity and all of the inequities that surface around that, because as you know, you are the champion, the ultimate champion of the TRIO program, legislation around educational inequity. And I'm not going to belabor this, but I need to share this with our audience. Did you know that more than a third of the overall adult population in the US has a bachelor's degree or higher? But guess what? Only 25% of Black Americans do. Help me, Jesus. Do we need to talk about student loan debt? Guess who has the higher percentage of their income is student loan debt? Do I even need to go there? 2/3 of 8th graders are not proficient in math and reading. Yeah, that's true, 2/3, but nearly 4 out of 5 Black 8th graders are not proficient in those areas. We won't talk anymore about college tuition, which is overpriced. And we've already talked a little bit about wages. My final comment on this, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Congresswoman, is that 62% of students at four-year colleges graduate within 6 years. That's important, right? They need to get out and get in the workforce. But guess what? Less than 50% of any Black student enrolled in a four-year college graduates within 6 years. It minimizes their time from studying to the workforce and to starting life. Congresswoman Moore, talk to us.
Ambassador Dr. Joan Prince, I mean, we've talked about so many inequities and housing opportunities and business opportunities and labor market opportunities. But certainly when we talk about structural inequality between men and women, Blacks and whites, schools are like at the top of that list in terms of equality. And I heard, from our panel here today, a quality that really makes a difference, and that is sticking to it, because it's hard to navigate and matriculate through college how in the world did poor, middle or working class Black people put 11 kids through college and they were farmers, or Black people who migrated from the South, put 8 kids through college, and I heard a couple of things that were consistent. I mean, it was very intentional. Here were parents who themselves weren't doctors, somebody, but they were the kind of people that realized that we're going to plant a tree, even though we know we won't be able to sit in that shade and have that tree shade us themselves. So I am the co-chair of the bipartisan TRIO caucus, because we realize that, number one, that we have 5% of the world's population in the United States, and so we're only going to have any kind of economic hegemony as long as we are still the thinkers in the world. We can't depend on necessarily putting widgets together to retain that status. We have got to have people who are, the next generation of computers and energy efficiency, and even in Dr. Carter's business. I mean, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is working on food security, because people are starving to death all over the world, because we need to apply science in terms of being able to feed people worldwide. And so we desperately need to be educated. We need at least 2 years beyond high school to have the most minimal jobs. And so finding equity in that area and pushing it is important. And what I heard from our speakers today is that they both had 2 parents and that they worked as a team to make sure that somehow, between just trying to keep them fed, that they were prospective and they saw the importance of making sure they had educational opportunity.
Thank you, Congresswoman Moore. Let me go to Dr. Daniels Carter and to Thelma Sias and see if you had any comment on educational equity before I pose our final opportunity for you to give closing comments. Dr. Daniels Carter.
Ambassador, education is so critically important. On our church campus, we have several schools, and we are in the process of developing even another program to educate our children. You cannot, and I can't overemphasize this, you cannot expect a person that is limited in their level of education to be able to have the broad strokes that they need to compete many times in corporate America. Not saying that they won't do well in life, but I'm saying if you really want to compete in corporate America and you want to compete at certain levels, there has got to be a better way of training and developing our young people and teaching them the value of education. Education is so powerful. People can take a lot of things from you. They can take your house, they can take your car, they can take a lot, but don't ever let them take your self-worth. Don't ever let them take your educational ability to know who you are and what you know, and don't ever let them take away from you your God. You have those three things. I'm going back to what, and this is why I enjoy this circle, because I'm dealing with three powerful women that understand what I am saying. I mean, Thelma, she is a walking example. Our Congresswoman, she is a living epistle. And you, Ambassador, you stand at the forefront of these doors, opening ways for these young people to be able to be empowered. Education is empowerment.
And I so agree with you. It is indeed the power of what we need. And I say to every woman and every man that's listening to this program at any point in time, over and over again, there's something each one of us can do to lead this process forward. My grandmother could not read, nor could she write. But every Saturday morning, you had to make sure you could read your name on the newspaper honor roll. She got up and walked alongside of the buses when we integrated the schools, believing that we deserved a better life than what she had. Every person, adult in a household, has to encourage a young person, go to school, have an expectation, walk along with them. We cannot say it's okay for our young people to only be educated by what they see on television, what they're seeing on Facebook, and any of those other means. They must be able to compete. The mind, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. We cannot waste the power of intellect and skill we have in generations yet to come. We must take the time. You're not in school today, let me walk you back over there. Your grades are not good, let me go see the teacher and let's talk about how we do this. We cannot. Those who came before us did not give up on the ability for us to be educated because it said white only. They made sure we were educated. We got to get up and get at it. Young people, you don't have a right to drop the legacy of your greatness because you can't read or write. We have too much riding on you. You must be willing to fight for it. If you don't fight for it, you can't get it. And when you get it, you've got to share it with others. When you have leaders like an extraordinary Congresswoman like Congresswoman Moore, standing up, being the voice for you and with you to give you opportunity, we've got to go out and vote. We've got to financially support the ability to bring more political minds to the table to create and continue to create access and opportunity. Education is the key to the door that we must continue to open.
Love it. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. And I would just add with this that you don't have to have the college education. My gut tells we want you to get there. But I would suggest that the parents of a Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter, the parents of a Thelma A. Sias, the parents of a Congresswoman Gwen Moore, the parents of Ambassador Joan Prince had a doctorate in common sense. That will take you farther, my darling, than anything else. We're winding up here, audience. We have a few minutes here and I need to be able to provide a couple key takeaways, and I'm going to ask for closing comments from each of you. Some of the takeaways from this fantastic conversation: set your mind towards a goal, navigate to a place of destiny, be relentless, instill the ability for young people to see. Do not allow the system to dictate our future. When you empower a woman, you empower a family. The relationship with faith should be well-defined and must be well-defined. What is birthed in you should also be birthed from you. Understand the power of who you are. Invest in your own journey, even if you think you don't deserve it. Love, respect, and believe what you see in the mirror. Invest in and with each other, and let no one, you hear me? No one take from you what you have earned. So, and I love this. What did you say? Get up and get at it. So with that, I'm going to ask you first, Ms. Sias, for closing comments. We'll then go to Valerie Daniels Carter. And then, of course, to wrap up the closing comments will be our fabulous Congresswoman. Ms. Sias.
Again, I say this has been an extraordinary opportunity for African-American women to be a voice out to others. I simply want to remind us all, yes, inequities exist, racism is real, unfairness is real, but we are the ones that will change a nation and a world. We are the ones. And we can do that by believing in ourselves, stepping up to the plate. And every freaking time the ball is thrown about what we cannot do, knock a grand slam and bring everybody home to see how great we are.
Woo, love it. Love it. Dr. Daniels Carter.
I don't even know what to say behind that except yes. In closing, let me just first of all appreciate you all for doing this session. I would love to take this session to some of the sessions that I go to with young women, because as I look over the landscape, our young women, African-American women, need to see the Jones and the Thelmas and the Congresswomen that I see. And I would love to take this and just play it in some of the group homes and play it in the places that, I know we're going to virtually see it in a few months, but I want us to let something like this resonate throughout social media. Why don't we allow something like this to get 1 million or 1 trillion shares? Because we're talking about cultivating a destiny of people. I recently released a book that says From Pandemic to Promise. We've got to allow people to know that you have promise and you have the ability to achieve and receive rewards for what you've done. So allow me, if anything else, Congresswoman, after we played this through the Congressional Black Caucus, allow me to take this message that I've heard today and send it to Africa, send it to our sisters across the nation, and most importantly, send it to our desolate children that are growing up as orphans, or they're growing up in single homes with single mothers that are struggling to try to do something for their children. And let me play something like this too.
Well, oh my God. You know what? You are the ones that have really given these words the legs that they have. It is really hard for me to follow all of that. Dr. Prince, no wonder you are an educator, because though your feedback and what you drew from it was so important. One of the things that stuck with me is something that Thelma A. Sias said. She said, the facts are the facts. And I think that's where we get stuck.
Yeah.
That the facts are the facts. I mean, you're poor, you're Black, you're female, you had a baby at 18, you're done. But the rest of the conversation was all about, what did she say then? Managing those facts, managing them. and anticipating something greater. And I also, heard a word and just know some of the personal stories of both of these women. They had other people who believed in them and invested in them and showed them the way. And they passed that on to another generation, not only with their siblings that they supported and their family helped them to all graduate to college, but for to go and sow a seed like Valerie did and say, oh, I can't help all these 500 women that showed up, but let me teach 2 women how to do it. And they'll teach some other women how you can crochet. Just the other day I had a fit to stop on the street and buy a crocheted hat from a woman because I know how much work she put into that and knew that I was going to be doing so much more to give her that money than to go up to, one of the big box stores and get me that very same thing for a lesser price, to sow that seed into that woman. So I heard that each one reach one. I certainly got the message about, having not only spiritual faith, and having, I don't know if it's yoga or if it's God or Allah, but just mindfulness and intentionality about moving forward, not just hope something good happened to me today. And taking advantage of it, being the smartest one in the room. We've always known we had to be smarter and working hard, not being scared to take those jobs and those opportunities that other people wouldn't have to do. I mean, I am so proud of these messages and just anchoring ourselves in our belief about our greatness and then spreading that to our community. I'm so excited and I'm so appreciative of you all joining me.
Congresswoman Moore, we thank you. Dr. Valerie Daniels Carter, we thank you. Thelma A. Sias, we thank you as well. This has been an extraordinary conversation, not just a conversation because it's filtered with strategies and ways to be impactful. The 4 women that you see here say to you, the audience, and to those who are within the sound of our voices, this is not for sisters only. We're in this together, but economically, socially, and politically, it's going to take each one of us to hold that mirror up, to do the right thing, but to do it in a way that lifts all of our boats in our community. So we thank you, Congresswoman. As always, you're on point. Guess what? We're going to see you right back here this time next year for another session of Not for Sisters Only. And, make no doubt about it, this issue forum is sponsored by the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference and the Congresswoman from the 4th District of the state of Wisconsin. She is Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.